following video contains blasphemy and may be too obscene for those who are religious. Viewer discretion is advised.
Salut, this is El Pistachio, and here's something special for today, because today is April Fool's, so I thought we'd just goof around a bit, and, well, essentially, this is what I have here. It's a fake, or an idea for a new civilization for Age of Mythology, retold specifically, but it's going to focus on around Christianity.
You're really going to hell for that one.
Now, yeah, this is probably be a bit blasphemous for some, but you know, this is not a serious pitch for a new civilization. This is just all in good fun. So essentially, this is what it would have been like if, let's say, we were living in an alternate universe where Christianity disappeared around the same time as the Norsemen did. So essentially, then we had a bunch of archaeologists dig up old tombs and monuments and maybe even some skeletons, and that's how they were able to learn about the life of Jesus and all the everything else you read in the Bible. And then years later, then the creators of Age of Mythology use this information to create a new civilization in addition to the Greeks and Egyptians, Norse, Atlanteans, and so on. Now think though. I mean, there's a lot of things that would have been missing from this civilization, or from this pantheon, if you will. Even with what we have to work with today, even if we had all the knowledge we have today, I mean. So we're going to say that in this alternate universe, a lot of the big things that we can associate with God, Jesus, and all matters of Christianity, all of that was accomplished around the same time, and it all fell together when the Christianity disappeared. It'll make more sense once I get further in the presentation. Just a couple of disclaimers. So yeah, again, this is not a serious pitch. This is just a ha-ha. And all pictures used in this presentation were either just grabbed randomly off of the internet, mostly from Google searches of old or defunct Bible or Christianity websites, some from Wikipedia, and on some other pictures, like the one you're looking at here, were actually taken from this book published in the 70s that I was lucky to have a copy of. And now, out of respect for any artists who may have contributed to any of these artworks you'll see later on, this video will not be monetized in any way whatsoever. I've also been extra careful to not use any AI generated artworks throughout this whole presentation, and I'll tell you, that was not an easy thing to do. There's so much AI art online. It was really hard to tell them apart, even sometimes, because of how sophisticated it's getting. But I think I pulled through. I hope so, anyway. But I digress. And I will also try to keep everything as much as possible in good taste. Now, just bear in mind, though, there may still be an occasional jab or two at the religion as a whole. All right. So anyway, enough delay. So let's just get right into this. It's not going to be a very in-depth presentation of the civilization, because again, it's not a real pitch. This is more like practice for future presentations I'll have of actual civilization pitches. So we'll try to keep this short, but we'll see how it turns out. So we'll go with the overview first. So, overview of the Christianity civilization. The focus will be mostly on converting other units to Christianity, because like the best case scenario with Christianity even today is that they don't use violence to summon people to their cause or to join their cause. It's all about spreading the message. So there will still be some soldiers, but they're going to be weak. The economy is not going to be that extraordinary, but yes, the greatest strength is their ability to use the enemy's own units against them. Gathering favor contributes also to a type of worship meter similar to the Japanese Bushido tier, and each tier grants some bonuses. Now the Christians start each game with 3 followers, and they also will get 3 wise men to scout the map at the 10, 40, and 110 second mark, or the 1 minute and 10 second mark. So it's a bit like oracles, but they come out a little slower. Because the wise men are scouts that have really good line of sight, much better than a kataskopos, but they are much slower, as they're just wandering through the desert at a slow pace, looking for the Son of God. So the heroes, the Christians only have 2 types, and both are trainable. So neither one of them appear for free in any way, like the Pharaoh for the Egyptians. The first one they can train is called the Bishop. He can toggle between converting units or attacking them at range, and he also has the ability to heal allied units. The other hero is the Apostle, that they can train 12 of in total. They can also convert, though not as good as the Bishop, and they instead have a melee attack. So both of them can be trained at the temple when it's built, and the Apostle can also be trained at the town center, though because that would cut into the training rate of followers, it's not advised, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. It's not written on here, but I think the idea would be that only the Bishop can carry relics, though maybe the Apostles will be able to if they're upgraded. So for the economy, it's actually pretty straightforward. The worker unit of the Christians is the follower. He actually gathers better than the other civilizations, bar the Atlantean citizen or the Chinese Kwafu, in that way that they gather all resources 5% faster, but they also construct buildings at a regular rate. But the only way for them to gain favor is by depositing it into the chapel, which is the main resource drop site. It is a universal drop site and the only one available. But what it does is that when they drop off those resources, it's making an offering to God and to the church. So whenever they drop off their resources, a fraction of that is converted into favor. So even though they can gather 5% faster, not all the resources deposited becomes resources. It's instantly converted. So the chapel and it converts 10% of the resources dropped off into favor, whether it's food, wood, or gold. But also the temple can act as a drop site as well for all 3 resources. Essentially, the temple is a bigger chapel. It also consumes 10% of the resources dropped, but it will generate more favor. So it's more efficient, but of course it's still the cost of a regular temple, so it's going to be more expensive. So you can't just spam these everywhere. Like any civilization, the Christians can also have a trade route. It's the Gamla caravans, which, if I remember my research correctly, it's the ancient name for a two-humped camel or the Bactrian camel. This is just set them apart from the Egyptians, which have the dromedary or the one-humped camel. So yeah, so these camels are going to be shaggier, two-humped, but that's pretty much the only thing that sets them apart. Otherwise, they behave like any other caravan. So military. So the Christians only have 3 mainline soldiers: the adherent, which is an infantry unit, the devotee, which is an archer, and the Israel chariot, which is their cavalry. So they're all generalist units. They attack with the by default when they're trained is they attack with the main weapon, which is the pilum, a sling, or a bow and arrow, respectively. However, they can toggle between that main weapon or a secondary weapon, which would be the mace, a dagger, or a spear, respectively. When they do so, when they switch weapons, then they become more efficient at fighting different units. So, for example, the adherent, he's more of a soft cavalry counter, but when he switches to the mace, then he becomes a hard infantry counter. The devotee becomes a hard archer counter when they gain the dagger, but they also become a melee fighter instead. While the chariot, it switches from their bow and arrow, which is good against like a soft counter to archers, and they become a hard counter to cavalry. Now, this might seem a bit imbalanced at first, and you can tell me more later no matter what, if this whole thing is unusable as a mechanic. But like the Atlanteans, when they're converted into heroes, the soldiers that is, this process takes time, and when you toggle, they'll become immobile for several seconds, which leaves them vulnerable. So even though you don't have to train new units to switch tactics in battle, if the opponent sends a different type of army, you still need to be away from the battlefield until they prepare. So from the heroic age onward, they can actually train a 4th soldier, but it's more of a trash unit, the camel archer. It only has one weapon, which is a bow and arrow, and they ride quickly on camelback, but their only purpose really is to raid villagers and other worker units. They're not otherwise very efficient in battle. Just some other notes here. The mainline soldiers that we covered earlier, they all trained from a building called the Refuge. It's like a little half underground building where they would hide from, say, the Roman Empire, so they could practice their beliefs in peace. But they also do have a castle type building called the Alcazar, which trains the bishop, more wise men. But so if you lose your scouts, just bear in mind you don't get to train them again until the heroic age, so just be careful. That's also where the camel archers are trained, but they also get to train 2 siege units, which are both humanoid in shape at first. The first one is called the Shofar Priests, which are taken from the Joshua, but taking over that city. What was it called again? Well, I'll leave a note, a title right here, just if it ever comes back to me later while editing this video. But yeah, so essentially they are priests who hold a horn made from or a trumpet made from the horn of a ram, and they have a short range, so they need to get pretty close to a building, but they do deal decent damage, and it's also an area of effect damage. They can attack multiple targets at once by blowing their horn, which slowly crumbles away the walls of a building. The other siege unit is very unusual. It's actually more of just a human unit, and it's called the Infiltrator. It cannot attack, it has low armor, but it has pretty decent movement speed. And just like the other earlier mentioned bishop and apostle, it also has the ability to convert units, but only siege weapons. The infiltrator, if you can get close enough to a siege weapon, in a few seconds it will instantly convert the weapon to your side because it's taking over it. However, this will also causes the infiltrator to be removed from play, so it can only convert one unit, like one siege weapon that is, and then it's gone. You'll have to train more after that if you want to take over more siege weapons. And conversion is also only possible if you have the population space. So keep that in mind. But that aside, otherwise the Christians don't have that many special buildings. It's very similar to the Greeks, so they have the armory, the market, docks. And speaking of dock, this is also where you can train 2 naval myth units. So this will be our first introductions to the myth units of the Christians. The first one is the big fish, the one that swallowed Jonah. It's really a decently bulky fish that has melee attack, but it has the ability to summon storms around it, which slow down the movement of nearby enemy ships. Kind of similar to the passive ability of Yinglong, the Chinese dragon. The Mythic Age myth unit is one actually I've never heard of before doing research on this. It's called the Sea Beast. It's a giant marine feline, a 6-headed feline with horns and crowns on its head. It fires multiple projectiles from its mouth, kind of like the Fafnir of the Norse, but it is also amphibious, so it can go in water and on land. However, it is only trainable at the dock. Finally, we have the Christian Titan, which is called the Nephilim, which I understand was a race of giants that were probably the children of men and rebellious angels. Some of them were apparently supposed to be 140 meters tall. That's all I have to work with when it comes to giants for Christianity, so this is going to be their Titan. Just a big man. Maybe I'll have little angel wings on its back, though. So moving on, we can't have a civilization without major gods, or should I say a major god, because as we know, in Christianity there is only a god, one god, and that is God, who is the god of creation, heaven, life, judgment, punishment, catastrophes, love. So anyway, he's going to be the first major god. His focus is going to be on followers, and his wonder will be the Tower of Babel. So his god power is the burning bush, the same one that he used to speak with Moses in the desert. It places a burning bush anywhere on the map that you want to select, as long as it's on land. And what it does is that it causes an aura that helps convert, or helps the conversion rate of nearby units, allied units. So your bishop and apostles will convert better if they're within range, along with the enemy units of this burning bush. I haven't decided if the bush is only there for a few seconds or if it's a permanent building that can be destroyed. That's up to date. So I'm going to actually go down to the bonuses now for God. Is that when you build a temple, it will automatically spawn a dove, which is an additional scout. It's an airborne scout that it actually works on autopilot. It will scout for you automatically. It is immune to all attacks, but it has only average line of sight, and you have no control over it. So once it's summoned, you can see what it does, where it goes, but you can't control it. And of course, it will not keep you alive if your entire army is wiped out. If the dove is your last unit left, and you have no other buildings that can train units, then it's game over. But then there's another bonus that God grants you, which is 10% cheaper to recast God powers. The Alcazar units have more attack, so that includes the bishop, the wisemen. Wait, no, never mind. Wisemen won't attack; they're just scouts. Sorry about that. But it does affect the camel archers and your priests that with the trumpets. Forgot their name already. Next is a bonus that's a little similar to Demeter's, but instead of summoning herdables, it summons wild animals at your town center upon aging up, so which is good for hunting. And when each time you hit a tier in the of the worship meter, it improves your followers' the training rate by 2, or +2, +5, +10, +15, or +25%. 25% is the cap. God grants only one technology, which is the Fruit of Wisdom. It enables your followers to build 10% faster. So that's it for him. We have also another major god. Well, okay, no, they're not major gods. They're more like biblical figures, but this is probably the closest one we have to a goddess in this entire pantheon. And it's going to so it's Mary, the mother of Jesus, and her focus is going to be on buildings, and her wonder is the Notre Dame de Paris Cathedral. So remember, in this universe, anything you might consider anachronistic is actually completely logical. That wonder was definitely around in medieval times. Anyway, Mary's bonuses, I'm going to go with the bonuses first from now on, is that whenever her followers are killed, they spawn a soul upon death. More to that later. The Watchtower and Guard Tower technologies are researched instantly for free in their respective ages. Constructing buildings contribute to your worship tier, so every time you construct a building of various size, it will add a few points to your worship tier. Of course, small buildings like houses give a little, but Alcazars will give a lot. The bishop has a special ability where he emits an aura, so that whenever he's nearby a military building, so either the Alcazar or the other building, my memory's terrible. There's a 5% chance that building will train or summon a free unit whenever one comes out. So 5% chance that that unit will come out with a twin, if you will. And so this Mary here, the worship tier works a little differently than the others. Is that each time you get enough points in a tier, each of your units on a map that has had taken damage, they get 10% of their max HP back. So they heal all at once 10%, so which increases their durability. But remember, that's going to take a lot of resources to hit a tier. Actually, there's no tier 5 or anything like that for her. It's just a meter that you have to fill out, and every time you do it, it resets. Kind of like Fushi's economic / military bonus. Mary's god power is called Miracle Water. It's just kind of similar to Amaterasu's Sword Shield, but what it does is that you target a single unit, and it fully heals it, and it also temporarily grants it immunity from most god powers and within special attacks. So it cannot be frozen by frost, cannot be bolted, or it cannot be petrified by the Medusa's gaze, or swallowed by the Tao Wu, for example. So to go into more detail with the soul, what are those? It's a departed spirit of a fallen follower. It can build and gather resources, and it is immune to all damage, but it cannot fight back itself. And it disappears after a minute. So it's like a final farewell to the follower when they pass away. It gives them a minute to just finish what they were up to, maybe building a building or gathering some resources. But once that minute is gone, they're gone for good. And her technology is called Devoted Husband, which will be the only nod to Joseph in this entire Pantheon. And what it does is that Joseph, her husband, increases the hit points of all houses by 25%. The final major god, or should I say man god, of the Christian is Jesus. He is the man god of healing and sacrifice. His focus will be on unit conversion, one of the key mechanics of the Christian Pantheon. And his wonder will be Christ the Redeemer, the giant statue of Jesus that you see in South America. So his bonuses are that at the beginning of the game, he spawns himself at your town center, right from the get-go. His human soldiers have a small chance of converting enemy units while engaging in combat. So it's a very small rate, but essentially any of your soldiers that are currently fighting an enemy unit, if they deal damage, there's a miniature chance that the damage will cause the unit to instantly convert to your side. So the bishops and apostles don't have to work as hard. Any soldiers that were converted by whatever method used will gain more attack, 10% more attack, whether it's hack, pierce, or crush. And this is only for soldiers, not siege, or as we'll find out later, for units. Now, bishops and apostles also get a bonus. They are 20% cheaper, and each tier of your worship meter will lower the cost of military technologies by 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25%. So Jesus' God power is blessed food. You can target a farm or a school of fish in the water to duplicate it, right, in an adjacent space, as permitted, of course. He has, so just to go more into detail about him spawning at the town center. So when when playing as Jesus, Jesus himself will be on the battlefield. He is a free hero unit. He will appear at the town center, and he is very good at healing other units. He is amphibious, so he can walk on water, but he has no attack whatsoever. And if Jesus is killed, he will respawn at the town center in 3 minutes. Jesus' technology is the Star of Bethlehem, which doubles the line of sight of wise men, followers, and herdables, as well as the caravans, making it much easier to scout and also keep an eye out for any potential dangers. Also, it means that your herdables can be used to scout for you in a pinch. The amount is probably going to be actually changed. If the wise men are going to have that much line of sight, it's probably not going to be a double. It might just be increased by 25%, but we'll see. Okay, so now we will be looking at the minor gods. In this case, is again going to be either biblical figures or prophets or angels, archangels to be more specific. The first classical age biblical figure we have is Saint Peter, the first pope and the guardian of the pearly gates. His focus will be on defense. He is available to God and Mary. So, St. Peter, his god power is catacombs. You target 2 friendly towers, alcazars, town centers, and or village centers to connect them with a hidden underground passage. So essentially what this means is that you are turning your towers, alcazars, town centers, or village centers kind of into a sky passage. If any units garrison in one of that building, it can then be ejected from the other building that you targeted. So while this increases your mobility of your units, it also means that the garrison amount contributes to both buildings. So you actually are left with less garrison space. So it is a bit of a trade-off there. His myth unit is the Golem, which actually was going to be a myth unit in the original game but was cut. But we're going to go we're going to fully commit to this golem here and make it and all that. He's not going to be just a generic clay fighter. He's going to have a little bit more of the lore to him. So the golem is a slow but strong humanoid made from clay. He is effective against human soldiers and buildings. And he can be actually rebuilt by your bishop if he is killed. Kind of like a Atlantean automaton. But of course, he can only remain on the field for a small amount of time before he is gone for good. St. Peter grants you 3 technologies. The first one is Pearly Gates. All your walls and gates have 20% more HP. Also, gates will heal nearby friendly units. Kind of like a temple by Apollo, but it's going to be at a reduced rate. Maybe like 0.5 seconds per second. Sorry, 0.5 HP per second. But it's going to be all your friendly units, but it's going to be at also a limited range. So it's not going to be the best healing building, but you can make so many of them at a low cost, because every wall segment that's long enough can be converted into a gate. So there's that. His second technology is the Holy Bible, which reduces the hack vulnerability of infantry by 10%. This is not only for the adherents that you can train normally, but also any infantry unit that you can convert on your to your cause. The final technology improves your golem. It's called Elemental Soul. It reduces the golem's hack and pierce vulnerability by 20%. And it also allows golems to repair each other. So they're less likely to collapse. And if they do, they're not dependent on a bishop to be revived. Second Classical Age option, which is available to Jesus or God, is John the Baptist, the prophet of the Jordan River, and his focus is on bishops. His god power is Cathedral. You select a friendly temple, whether it's yours or an ally's, and you can convert it into a massive cathedral that generates more favor when resources are dropped off inside. It trains all units faster, that is your bishop, your apostle, and your myth units, and it has double its HP, so it's more durable as well. His myth unit is the Lilith, a female demon that can cause infatuation into enemy soldiers, similar to the newly introduced Siren in the Age Mythology Retold, available to Demeter. But this is only a temporary immobilization. After a few hits, they will be able to regain control of themselves. Just a little note, Lilith, if anyone wants to know, is, according to some passages of the Bible, Adam's first wife, but then she didn't want anything to do with him, and she left the Garden of Eden, because she didn't want to be submissive to man. So now some people portray her as the evil entity, and we're going to go full out embracing this concept in this civilization. 3 technologies are available to John the Baptist. The first one is holy water. It grants bishops 2 or +2 divine damage in their attacks. Might be nerfed to 1 if it's too much, but then again, bishops and apostles were never meant to be strong fighters of overall. They're only against myth units. I mean, the real purpose is to convert. Second technology improves the Lilith. It's called Consort of Samael, and it reduced the Lilith's infatuation ability charge rate by 25% and increases her melee attack by 20%. Last technology is Desert Wanderer. John teaches your followers to live off the land. As from what I understand, John the Baptist, he actually lived in the wild in clothes made from camel hairs. So he's going to teach your followers to live off the animals of the desert. And this will help them increase their food gathering rate from non-farm food sources by 10%. And they will also slowly regenerate HP while gathering food. Third and final Classical Age option is Gabriel, the Archangel and Messenger of God, available to both Jesus and Mary. His focus is actually going to be on myth units. His god power is actually one of my favorite ideas I had so far for this Pantheon, which is called Lion's Den. This was actually highly inspired by the Hand of Fire god power from Return of the Gods, the Aztec civilization. But what this one does is that it encases enemy units into a circle of stones and summons wild lions inside to attack. The survivors will be released after 25 seconds and the lions will disappear, but the lions will not harm villagers and they will be able to walk out of the den no problems. Villagers cannot be trapped, so it's not effective in raiding. It's purely to attack soldiers. Gabriel's myth unit is a angel warrior. It's a winged warrior of heaven that can switch from fighting on the ground and taking flight, similar to that flying tiger for the Chinese. But also he has a type of healing aura while in flight. So as he's in the air, he drops down some sparkly lights, maybe some confetti, and any units below him will slowly regenerate HP. Alright, so Gabriel is going to be different because he's going to have access to 4 technologies. The first one is Crucifix, which grants bishops the ability to convert myth units. Similar to the Monks of Shenong from the extended edition, but because again myth units are usually more valuable than human soldiers, it's going to be a slow process, but at least now it's available. Very useful for late game when you're fighting very strong myth units as well. Second technology improves your angel warriors into Guardians of Eden. Well, actually, the technology is called Guardians of Eden, but it's what it does is that it upgrades your warrior angels into cherubs. Okay, that is a typo right there, but I digress. So they will take them less time to switch from land and flight time, but it also grants them more attack. Maybe that could also improve their healing aura. Who knows? Third technology, Army of Heaven. Just general upgrade for all myth units. They all gain 20% more HP. And finally, the prophetic vision is the final technology available to Gabriel. Adherents, devotees, and Israel chariots will take half the time as usual to switch weapons. So it makes it much easier for your army to respond to a threat that they were not prepared for. Now, just one more note I want to make about the converted myth units, which also applies to the extended edition, is that the Christian Pantheon does not have access to all the technologies that would improve units of other pantheons. Not only things like, say, uh, granite blood available to Hell only for the Norse, or main unit line upgrades for the Egyptians. So the only upgrades available to soldiers are converted will be either through relics or generalized technologies. But now we're moving on to the Heroic Age, starting with Raphael, which is the Archangel of Healing. He is available to Jesus and Mary. Now, his god power matches his focus on healing, which is called Healing Pool. Similar to Swamp, it creates a vast terrain area, which is turned into a shallow pool of miracle water, similar to that of Mary. And any friendly unit that's basking in this water will heal quickly, although not as quickly as the restoration god power available to Athena, the Greek goddess. But it does last for 30 seconds, so essentially, as if you're in combat in that pool, your units are going to be a lot more durable. So the enemy should consider pulling out of there if they want to have a fair shot of defeating you. He has one myth unit called the Ophanim. The artwork here is actually found on Reddit. I will show the name of the Redditor who created that artwork. It was a very nice depiction of the Ophanim, and honestly, probably the only colored drawing of the Ophanim I found anywhere that was not AI generated. Anyway, this myth unit is fully airborne. It has a massive line of sight because he has so many eyes. And similar to the Petsukos, he fires a massive beam of light from its eye with 100% accuracy. So he deals a lot of damage, fully accurate, but he has a slow rate of fire. And because it's a flying unit, he's very frail. 3 technologies available to Raphael. The first one is Rosary, which doubles the healing rate of your bishops. Giant Slayer improves your devotees by granting them 10% more attack and more range for their ranged attack. This is a technology that's a reference to David and Goliath, which is actually what devotees were mainly based on. And finally, third technology is Raising of Lazarus. It causes all human units to have a 15% chance of respawning at your town center. This is not only for human soldiers, but also any human unit. So your followers, your wise men, and the converted units as well. Next, in the Heroic Age, available to God and Mary, as Moses, the prophet of law and liberation. His focus will be on buildings and favor. His god power is Plague of Frogs, so you target an area to make frogs rain from the sky, which causes fear in your enemy units and makes them scatter all over the place, causing disruption. And it doesn't deal any damage, but it will last a very decent amount of time. And essentially your enemy loses complete control over their units anyway, so you don't need to do damage. Your units will take care of that for you, or heck, it will even just convert them all while they're frantically trying to make sense of what's going on. Moses has a pretty frail but fast and cheap myth unit called the Angel of Death, and fittingly enough, it has a instant kill special ability. It might just be similar to the Angel Warrior, where it has a melee attack, maybe a short-range attack. Considering it's a Heroic Age, that seems better. They would have to be melee. But it could also be just the Angel death that has only its special attack as its main attack, like the Hades Shades from the campaign. Makes one kill and then disappears. Who knows? Tell me what you think, which would be more appropriate. Now, Moses, like Gabriel, has 4 technologies, and this will be the final instance of this happening in this pantheon. First one is the Parted Red Sea. It grants your followers the ability to become amphibious, so they no longer need to go into transport ships to cross a body of water. So this is efficient for mobility, but also escaping danger. Of course, bear in mind that being in the water puts you at risk of being attacked by ships, but still can come in useful. Second technology is Serpent Staff. The bishops have a better conversion rate of enemy units, which is 30% faster, and they also gain a 10% HP bonus. Third technology, Tablets of Stone. Any resources dropped off at chapels and temples will now generate 50% and 100% more favor respectively. So the amount of resources you invest into getting favor is improved. More value, that is. And fourth technology, which is actually meant to repel the Angel of Death, is called Lamb's Blood. All your buildings now gain minus 15% hack and crush vulnerability. Also, units that are garrisoned inside a building, like a town center or a tower or an Alcazar, will slowly heal their HP while hiding inside. It's not a very fast healing rate. It's much more efficient just to have the bishop heal them. But if you need to quickly hide from a raid attempt, at least you can take some time to heal up while you're hiding inside. The final option for the heroic age is Noah, the prophet of the flood. He is available to God and Jesus, and his focus is going to be on human soldiers. His god power is Deluge. It causes a downpour over a targeted area that reduces the movement speed of enemy units by 20%, but it also destroys farms, berry bushes, and kills herdables. So instead of causing disruption like Plague of Frog for Moses, Noah is mostly focusing on slowing those units down and leave them more vulnerable like that, and preventing escape. His myth unit is Goliath, a giant soldier who is effective against both human soldiers and buildings. He has the ability to throw a massive spear that strikes every unit in its path, kind of like a large skewer, if you will. A nice way to deal a lot of damage in one blow. Noah has 3 myth technologies. The first one is the obligatory Noah's Ark. So it allows all warships to garrison units, so not only the arrow ship but also the hammer and siege ships. And well, this is probably a statistic that need to be tweaked with some gameplay experimenting, but all warships gained 50% more of their base attack for each garrison unit. So this is a high risk, high reward situation because yes, you get a lot of attack, but you need to send units inside first of all to be garrisoned, so you don't have an army on land. And if the ship is sunk, all your units are sunk with it. So you can deal a lot of damage, but you got to be extra careful not to let that ship sink either. Good idea would be to send a bunch of those trash camel archers in there, because they're not going to be worth all that much otherwise. But again, don't want to give your enemy more kills than necessary. Second technology is the Burnt Offering. All your human soldiers now have minus 10% pierce vulnerability, and another minus 5% pierce vulnerability when they're near a temple. This was a reference to the offering, the burnt offering that Noah made after the flood, and as a thank you for that, God vowed to never again smite the earth. So this means your soldiers are more protected from now on. Third technology is called winemaker, a reference to the time that Noah discovered wine, got drunk by accident, and was found by his son naked. And what this actually does is it causes drunken revelry in your enemy units. So enemy human soldiers who are within 10 range of a friendly farm gain a minus 50% attack recharge rate. So essentially, they will swing their swords slower, they will fire arrows slower, and no, that's pretty much it. They just don't attack as quickly. I mean, they can still move pretty fast, like movement speed wise, but they just can't strike as frequently. Now, finally, we move on to the Mythic Age. This is Michael, the Archangel of War. His focus is on chariots and camels, and he will be available to Mary and Jesus. His god power is probably one that a lot of you saw coming, called Rapture. This was never actually mentioned in the Bible itself, but hey, we're going all out with these. Again, anything that's remotely associated with Christianity is fair game when it comes to this pantheon. So the Rapture, it causes all human soldiers currently on the map, friend or foe, to be temporarily removed from play for a minute. And once the timer runs out, they will be returned as close as possible to their last position. So this is a way to remove an army of the enemy if you're a little short on soldiers, giving you more time to reorganize yourself, train more soldiers. But keep in mind this also affects your ally, so make sure you don't ruin one of their fights. But what this also does is free up your population space. So while all those soldiers are gone, you can train a lot more, and then when they return, you might find yourself with a gigantic army that surpasses your population limit. Could be very useful, I think. Myth unit is Ziz. It is a monstrous bird that damages groups of units with each flap of its wings by making massive gales. Not going to be very fast hitting. We don't want to make the same mistake as the Vermilion bird in the early days of Tale of the Dragon, but it's still going to deal quite a amount of damage with each flap. He also has a special ability to make a dive bomb attack. He flies down to the ground, tackles groups of units, and causing them to scatter, and kind of like a shockwave god power, and it also damages them. Might not stun them, but it will sternly damage and causes break in formation, make it easier to pick off other units. 3 technologies are available to Michael, the first being Chariots of Fire. Michael grants your Israel chariots 25% more HP, and their attacks have a burning effect, similar to the Bite of the Shark technology of the Atlanteans, or Shaft of Plague, available to Artemis for the Greeks. So it causes additional divine damage over a few seconds with each strike. And that's both for their melee and ranged attacks, depending on what they want to fight. Crucifixion is the second technology. It causes your camel archers and Israel chariots to gain more attack for a short time, anytime that an allied military unit is killed within 6 range. Similar to the Fury of the Fallen technology available to Vidar, but it affects 2 of your units, but it also has a slightly smaller bonus when it happens. The final technology improves your Ziz. It is Colossal Wings. It grants them 20% more HP, and a new ability that you can choose to use instead of the dive bomb one. The Ziz will fly down to the ground and pin a unit to the ground, and allows it to devour it and regain its HP. So very effective to take out a enemy soldier, or maybe a heavy soldier like a Jarl or a War Elephant. Just bear in mind that while the units while this is on the ground healing, that it also leaves it vulnerable to melee attacks. Right, 2 more to go. So yes, we're going to do the same thing as the Greeks and the Norse originally, and that's that we have one minor god available to 3 of the major gods. In this case, it's going to be Abraham, the patriarch of the Abrahamic religion, and his focus is going to be on siege and caravans. And his god power is the Holy Hand Grenade. What you do is you target an area and you drop a giant grenade from the sky. It bounces around the area for a bit until it settles down, and when the timer runs out, it explodes, dealing massive damage to buildings and units alike. Oh boy, okay, talking for this long is hurting my throat. Good thing I have water. Alright, moving on. His myth unit is the Fiery Serpent, I should say. This was the last myth unit I was able to come up with this civilization, or Pantheon. I mean, I was pretty much scrapping the bottom of the barrel here, because the Bible is not exactly known for its monsters. But essentially, these are a reference to when things on the earth will start falling apart, is when the snakes will get their wings back, because they were taken away by God in the Garden of Eden. But these low-flying serpents, they now have the ability to breathe fire, which deals heavy damage to units and buildings. Now, they are not airborne, they're more like the Wadjet, so they kind of hover above the ground, so they can be attacked physically by land units. But to fend off attacks, it has the ability to swing its tail and knock back any units and temporarily stun them, kind of like the Centimanus' knockback ability. Abraham has access to 3 myth technologies. The first one is Smiting of Sodom. It causes all god powers to have a minus 50% cooldown time, so they recharge much faster. And specifically, the Holy Hand Grenade god power has minus 40% favor cost, which makes it much easier to spam and blow things up with. Second technology is Fall of Jericho. The Shofar Priest gains 20% more attack and +2 range. Meanwhile, all siege units have a lower train time, so that's the Shofar Priest and the Infiltrator. Maybe I should actually add a note that all siege units gain 20% more attack, so that also any converted siege is effective or affected, but again, that's up to a debate. Last technology is Golden Calf. It causes your Gamla caravans to generate favor when they deposit gold at the market. So it essentially causes your market to behave like a chapel or temple. This creates a better favor income for you, especially when resources starts to run thin around the map. It makes it a lot easier to fund another Holy Hand Grenade. So we have one more Mythic Age entry, and this might surprise a lot of you. Not only because of its placement, but because of what it represents all itself. But just hear me out. The final Mythic Age option is Satan. Now, he is only available to God, and you're wondering, wait, why would worshippers of God suddenly worship Satan in the Mythic Age? Well, that's because, essentially, what happens if you worship Satan in the Mythic Age? He is taking over as your major god. So Satan has his own bonus, which is more of a aesthetic change. It causes all your buildings to become darker in color, and it changes all the major god statues from God to Satan. Essentially, all your worshippers reject God and become Satanists. And Satan is the adversary of God, and his focus is on myth units. His god power is a very risky one to use. It's called Deal with the Devil. The picture here is actually taken from a podcast. I think it was called like Evil Handshake or something. Anyway, very nice artwork. It's the only artwork I could find that did not have the sleeve of a modern person available. So kudos to these guys. I don't listen to them. I don't know if they're any good, but if you're curious, I wouldn't blame you to check them out. Anyway, I digress. Deal with the Devil is the god power. So it starts a 5-minute countdown during which all the caster's human units have highly increased stats. So mostly going to be attack, but maybe it can be armor as well, or HP, or movement speed. But this essentially so it supercharges your soldiers and any other soldiers you train, but it puts you at a high risk, because if in 5 minutes the enemy still has control of a settlement, then you lose the game. This is supposed to be an all-out push god power. Send everything you have and take out the enemy in the hope that they either surrender or that you have enough strength to what was I saying? Yeah, essentially make your army super strong, make it so that your own enemy surrenders, or that you have enough strength to take out their town centers. And if you do, then the enemy or the army is returned to normal, and the countdown does not affect you in any way, so long as there's no more town centers that are occupied by the enemy. So myth unit is obviously going to be the demon. Is a malevolent creature that is pretty decent in combat, not the best when it comes to Mythic Age standards, but it has a pretty nasty special ability, which is a possession. It can temporarily possess, not convert, but it temporarily controls an enemy unit, any enemy unit, whether it's myth unit, soldier, or siege, and then you can have that unit fight for you for a little while. So it's not a conversion, but it's kind of similar to that Chinese hero, not the monk. I forgot what the new one introduced in Retold was called, but it's the same principle really. So finally, Satan grants you 3 technologies. First one being Pentagram. It has a 40% chance, once researched, to summon a new myth unit at your temple when one dies, not counting the Titan, obviously. It's kind of similar to Zhuanu's resurrection technology, but it affects myth units instead of your human units, so it's very useful to bring back your demons or any other myth unit available to God. And your demons can also be improved with the Eternal Suffering god power. It improves them into archdemons, meaning they have more attack, and it doubles the duration of their possession ability. So aesthetically, they also gain bat wings and a pitchfork to fight with. And the last technology, which actually improves your soldiers rather than your Mythonites, is called heretics. Your soldiers now start to think for themselves. They reject religion, and they become pretty much hated by the church and burnt at the stake. But essentially, heretics causes your human soldiers to be cheaper with food, wood, or gold cost, and they have a much reduced train time. So allows you to pump out a bunch of human soldiers during the duration of the deal with the devil god power, for example. So that is it for the Christian Pantheon. Again, not much more to go in depth with. There's not much else to see. But if you guys have any thoughts or other ideas for this totally not a serious pitch Pantheon, you're free to leave some comments below. And I would like to hear from you. I mean, are any of these bonuses, technologies, or god powers viable for a more serious civilization? What would you do different? What tweaks with the percentages of the technologies would you change? And most importantly of all, are you going to refrain yourselves from leaving threats in the comments saying that I'm going to be burning for all eternity and that I've committed a sin against the church? You tell me. Alright, well, thank you very much for watching. More Age of Mythology content coming soon. Video's over now. Bye.
The following contains blasphemy and may be too obscene for those who are religious. Viewer discretion is advised. You're going to hell for this.